Welcome back to Happy Hour Holidaze with our guest, Rebecca Lorea.
Don't mess it up, Manny.
Lender extraordinaire. If you're looking to buy a house, if you're looking to be a first-time home buyer, she is your girl to get it done. So, Rebecca, how is the temp out there to try to buy a house right now?
Oh, well, the temperature, should I take it back to like early 90s Clueless days? It's like, fire. I mean, it's hot, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so as a lender, right, I'm usually like in the office with my headset on. These earphones are not a vibe, by the way. I'm in there in the office behind the scenes, and like all my realtors are boots on the ground. You know what I mean? And it's crazy. I mean, multiple offers. I think the home prices are like 3.1, 3.8% above what they were like this time last year. And it's nuts. It's going crazy. I think there's housing wire. I read an article. There's like 330 million like people in the U.S. and there's only 70,000 homes for sale.
Yeah, no, we're like,
imagine.
We're 2.5 months out right now to have enough construction to fulfill all the people looking for houses. Also, I mean, just listings in general, pending sales are outweighing how many listings are out there. On top of that, I mean, we're having about 15.4% higher population coming to Florida from before. And we're talking about 2020, 2021 numbers. So it is extravagant to live here in Florida and especially in the Tampa Bay area.
Have you
100%.
noticed that there are more inquiries for people trying to get mortgages lately ever since the Fed hiked up the rates?
So, I mean, that's like a little bit relative. So kind of more toward the beginning of the spring, mortgage applications were at a height that they hadn't been for like a year or so prior to that. The problem with what's going on now is there are a lot of external factors, right? We have the insurance premiums on the rise due to fraudulent claims after the storms. A lot of carriers leave. Then we kind of have Citizens, who's a little bit, in my opinion, like the De Beers of the diamond company, like a monopoly, so whatever Citizens does, everybody else that's left follows suit. So we have the insurance premiums rising, and then we have the interest rate. So what's happening is it's pricing out a lot of home buyers. There's just a huge pool of people that want to be home buyers that they're just priced out. They can't afford it. I mean, the home prices have increased, and it's not that homes are valued. It's not that this home is worth $450,000. It's the values are keeping pace with inflation. Like I had an investor deal that kind of fell apart. The house was like a little bit on the lower end, like maybe the 240 range or something like that. But the inspections came in. We're losing a lot of deals for inspections. And the guy, he was buying it as an investment property, and he didn't want to walk into like a project. But think before inflation and before all the home prices were going crazy, that $240,000 house was probably what? Maybe a $200,000 house?
Probably less than that.
Yeah. Right. Probably less than that.
Yeah.
So then, picture that type of home mentally. So just a lot of people are getting priced out. The buying power is reduced compared to the home sale prices, right? Versus how much like the average annual income has increased.
Yeah.
It's not that much.
No, it hasn't been that much. I mean, looking at my stats right now, we're looking at $56,000 for annual income average for most people living in the Tampa Bay area. That's not a lot compared to 2020 to 2023, where the prices almost raised 50-60%.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you afford that? But in turn, so did the rental prices. So you're still better off buying a house over renting a property.
So then are you seeing a lot more millennials starting to purchase their first home, or is it still the Gen Xers and the baby boomers that are still buying more homes than you do see the younger generations?
So that, I think, is a great question. And I think, obviously, one last thing to the point we were talking about why those pools of buyers are getting priced out is also the interest rates, right? That's a big topic. But to answer your question, I think that is a great point. Right now, it's not so much millennials. They're starting to uptick. I think there was a stat that I read, like in 2025, something like 30 or 50 million millennials are going to be home buying age. That's a lot of people. And when you think like I'm in my 40s, I'm like 41.
You said 20s, right?
In my 20s? Yeah, I'm in my 20s.
There you go.
Okay, 30s.
I'm celebrating the 20th anniversary of my 21st birthday this year. So everybody, it's in September. I'll invite you. But so they're coming. But I make that point because I had to adapt, right? We had to adapt to the cell phones and the texting and the this. Now there's entire generations where they don't even have phone conversations. So where are we reaching them? You find them a lot on social media, and they're finding me. They're coming, but they're planning. So the wave isn't quite here yet. There are still a lot of, I don't know about the generations. I don't even know what I am. An elder millennial. I don't know what I am. But it's still a lot of the baby boomers. It's also interesting to note that a lot of the baby boomers, there was a Zonda list, and they're the baby chasers because not the millennials. What else is the Gen Xers right now? They're starting to have babies. The baby boomers' kids are having babies, and across the Sun Belt, there's a phenomenon where the baby boomers are following them because they want to be close to the grandkids. For sure. So it's very interesting. So the baby boomers kind of, or maybe they're downsizing, but we haven't started to see that huge wave of the millennials because that's where it's going to be. Yeah,
and we go back to social engineering when it comes to so many people. And is it Gen Z, the one that's younger than the
Gen Z is the one
younger than millennials?
Younger than millennials.
I know, we need a graph and years 1981 to 1996. I can't.
Gen X is born in the late 70s, early 80s, and then millennials are mid 80s all the way up until 2000.
I can't. Can we please talk about how the fact that people who were born the year that I graduated high school are now of drinking age? This is mind-blowing. You get older and you're oh, I'm really not that old, and you're yeah, you are.
Yeah, as soon as at 21 you see, okay, here's the age for 21. Holy shit!
It's the weirdest thing, but that's another conversation.
But the biggest thing is that it's different advertising to the Gen Z. Well, Gen Z is not so much purchasing houses like the millennials are, but it still is more, I think it's a little bit more difficult to get their attention. How do you get their attention? Are we talking about social media advertising to try to bring them in to purchase a house? Because a lot of these, kids,
they're on TikTok.
They're on TikTok.
That's pretty much it.
But they've lived in their parents' house till about maybe 30s. You know?
Maybe they're still there. Call me if you want to buy a house.
I know
I'll get you out of your parents.
But do you think they saved enough money to buy a house? Because the problem is with the baby boomers, they had coddled the millennials so much because they came from a tough time, working hard to try to make a living, and now you're thinking, how do I teach these kids after I taught them a certain way to do, to give them better life than what I had? I
don't think the parents are equipped to be able to do that because they're just living the same kind of life they've always lived, so that's all they can teach. They can't teach someone how to become wealthy because they themselves are not wealthy. Yeah. So what I see is a lot of people, what they're doing is they're taking to influencers to try to see, okay, what can I learn from this wealthy person? How can I apply it in my own life? Yeah. And reading books and things of that nature. What I heard is a pretty ridiculous stat that Gen Zers are working less and making more than some millennials because millennials, what they were taught is go to college, work at 9 to 5, and what Gen Zers are doing is getting rich online. And that's all they choose to do. So you probably might see an interesting trend where Gen Zers outpace millennials in purchasing homes, in my opinion.
Well, see, that's very interesting. I've never considered that point of view because I think you're right. Now you have all these influencers monetizing, right? You have affiliate advertising. You have now, let's talk about the cryptocurrency phenomenon, or let's not because that's...
we could talk about crypto.
Well, listen, you need to get while we're...
NFT, right? And
this is a problem because I go off on a lot of tangents. While we're farming some common ground here, you guys actually know my husband, Mario Larea. He was on... Brandon's show with you guys. Yeah, because I started playing.
He was a mortgage broker, right?
We own this branch together.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so because I started playing the pilot or something you sent me, and he goes, "Is that the Ferre brothers?" And I was like, "What? How do you know them?" And he's like, "Oh, well, A, I used to work with them on the show, and then B, their voices are so distinct." And I was like, "Okay, yes, actually." Circling back to where we were. Take it back. Where were we, Sean? Oh, the Gen Zers and stuff. I think you're right. As far as, how are you going to learn how to be a millionaire, not from a millionaire? You know what I mean? And I think it's a societal misconception, right? Work, go to school, work, live your whole life, do the grind, and then what?
Retire at 65?
Die and pay taxes.
Yeah, that's crazy.
There's no like allure to that. So I think that there's different avenues. And listen, these kids are watching. Like I started, whole other story, but I started doing videos and stuff on TikTok. I mean, these kids, they're not like looking in the yellow pages anymore. Like we have
What are yellow pages?
Exactly. But like we have to realize that if you search like some of these hashtags, like hashtag mortgage has like 7 billion views on TikTok.
That's crazy.
I mean, it's insane. So when you have these millennials and stuff, like I truly believe that the future home buyer starts with the lender first. Not the realtor.
And that's what I was going to tell you too, Rebecca. I really believe that as well. I think that the lender is going to help the new home buyer or even an existing home buyer get a better deal on the mortgage because it all starts from that. If you can't qualify, the realtor is obsolete.
Yeah. Yeah. And the generation, it's important to point out, is they're there. They're in the background, but now they're planning. They're not like, oh, let me just hang out at my parents. I've graduated college. I'm just going to chill here and be like in the waiting room of life until, the opportunity comes and finds me. They're planning. Okay, I'm going to get married in 2024. And then later that year or the following year, I'm going to get married. So now you have to go and find them on these platforms, and they're like, you're establishing trust with them. You know what I mean? So if you're somebody in whatever industry that you are, I mean, that's where the leads are. That's where your audience is now.
Exactly.
And so it's crazy, especially because
is that what you're doing? Are you advertising on TikTok, on Facebook, on Instagram, and things of that nature?
I am. Yeah. I started to heavily like the beginning of this year. I'm happy to report that I crawled out from under the rock that I was living under, and here I am. Thank you for having me.
Oh, that's awesome.
But I did, like, if I'm being quite honest, like zero interest in social media, like personally.
Yeah,
and that's
I agree.
just being
I'm
honest.
like that too.
But for the for work and lead generation, and I really have a passion about what I do. Yeah. So I want to like educate, entertain, inspire. So advertising, yes, I haven't done like paid ads or anything like that. It was like a learning curve. It was really funny. Like my first few posts on Facebook, and then I like joined some groups, and I literally was copying and pasting and uploading the image. And I'm like, Facebook, there's got to be a better way. There has to be a better way. And then I found like I was doing this every day to like 17 groups, and then I was like, oh, there's a share button. Of course there is. So whatever. I don't care. I don't give a shit what people think. But so I am. But I advertise like myself. I'm not in a bullpen cold calling realtors. I'm not going to do that. I'm never going to do that. It's not who I am. And so I put myself out there to help people learn. And hey, I'm not everyone's cup of tea. But if I'm yours and you want to work with me and you want like a no BS person that's direct and isn't just going to blow smoke and tell you what you want to hear, then that's me.
But you don't think, honestly, I wanted to ask you that too, Rebecca. Do you actually think cold calling works in this generation we're in anymore? Because I really don't think it does. People still go to that, no, you just got to cold call. How many people pick up their phones?
Yeah.
You don't remember cold calling realtors to get them to use us?
Yeah, I know, but that was now 7 years ago.
That was 7 years ago.
I don't know.
And TikTok wasn't around.
I don't know, because I honestly am like, it's funny because I'm like, I go to the two sides of the spectrum. If I leave someone a voicemail, I'm the one that like says my number and repeats it twice.
I do that
I'm
too.
that person.
Dude, I do that too.
But then like the other day I checked my voicemail. I'm like, oh my God, I had like 4 leads. I really got to check my voicemail more. Because like who's checking their voicemail in 2020? Oh, they don't answer. Or text me. So I don't know. I got lost, sidetracked.
Oh, no. So it was just basically the cold calling, but you answered.
I don't know. I don't have prior experience.
But you're right. I mean, honestly, I was thinking the same thing because when we were thinking about how can we like attack sales, and then we're starting to think, is it really cold calling? It really isn't because
I mean, would you want to be cold called?
No, because then I really don't want to answer it. Most of the people that cold call me, I just pick it up and I go, you know what? I really don't have the time. But if somebody right now, Rebecca, wanted to buy a house, how would they start with you?
So I think that's a great question. What I tell people, like if you want to buy now or if you're looking to buy in 6 to 12 months, it's really to go through the pre-approval process. And it's very simple. It's very short, but it's going to give you a baseline. So even if you're not ready now, get a baseline, right? The next 6 months are going to pass anyway. Right? So at least have them pass armed with the information of exactly where you're going and a roadmap. So it's like you wouldn't go on vacation and not plan out like packing and the route you're going to take, the hotel. Like you can't throw a birthday party for one of the kids without planning.
You're right.
You know what I mean? You can't go run errands without planning. Can't go grocery shopping without planning. So buying a house is the same way. So to answer your question, you can either call me or fill out an online application. And the pre-approval process tells you 3 things. And these are like the main 3 things that I get all the time is 1, what's the maximum purchase price I can qualify for? Nice. Important. Establish the budget. 2, approximate out-of-pocket costs. And then 3, like approximate monthly mortgage payment. So those are the 3 things. And there's 3 things you need to get pre-approved: income, assets, which is the savings you have for down payment and closing costs, and credit, not just the score, how many active accounts you have, how they report, things like that. And then we get a baseline and
so
go
what's
from there.
the lowest credit score someone can have to purchase a home?
So that's a great question. FHA loans start at a 580 minimum score.
Really? 580?
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And then conventional are 640. Now, VA technically doesn't have like a minimum score requirement. VA is like the best loan product out there if you can take advantage of it. But 580. So, I get a lot of people that are like, hey, okay, I want to apply for this first-time home buyer loan. FHA is essentially the first-time home buyer loan.
100%.
580 credit score, 3.5% down. I mean, people with 800 credit scores and 5 to 20% down aren't getting into houses as easy as people with lower credit scores and lower down payment.
So we'll be right back to discuss how getting your credit score a little bit lower or higher affects what your interest rate's going to be. And we're back, and our topic at hand is basically if you're an FHA trying to get an FHA loan, how can you? What is the interest rate you're going to get at a 580 right now, Rebecca? From your experience, I know either way you're still going to be better off buying a home, but what is that interest rate looking at when you first start in right at today?
I will tell you, I absolutely love this question because it is, to me, and probably mortgage lenders will feel me on this one, it's crazy because people call me and they're like, I'm shopping around for the best rate. What rate do you have? Because I saw this on a yard sign in front of the bank. And you're like, okay, well, they also offer like the lowest rates to like the A paper 800 credit score borrowers, like really low debt ratio. But when you say what are the interest rates, you're not, us lenders were at a disadvantage. We don't have all the pieces of the puzzle. It's akin to going to the doctor and saying, I need surgery. I'm really, really sick. Fix me. And they're like, okay, well, what are your symptoms? No. Just I need surgery. Fix me. And you don't tell them anything because interest rates are based on 3 things. So credit score, loan amount, and loan to value. So until we know how much you're pre-approved for, how much you're putting down, what your credit score is, then we can't really know. You know what I mean?
So it's not all in to just a credit score. There could be, if you have good tangible assets, you got some cash, your W-2 shows well, I mean, you're going to get a little bit more of a helping hand.
Well, yeah. And that's a good point. So there's 3 things that, backing up a little. So to answer your question, rates pretty much right now are in the 6s across the board. It's like a volatile week, the week that we're in right now. What's today? Wednesday, May 31st, so Memorial Day week, because I don't know when this is going to air. But, it's a little bit volatile. Over, a few months ago, there were like 9 consecutive rate hikes. So I have people that are like, oh my God, I don't know. What are the rates going to do? Are they going to go down? And I was like, I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, but they just went up 8 times in a row. So maybe not, but they could. Who knows? Again, there's 3 things that we look at: the income, the savings, and then the credit. So what we do is we take someone's income, right, and the debts that are reporting on credit, your car payment, your minimum monthly credit card payments, and we calculate what's called a debt to income ratio. And that ratio has to be within a certain threshold for different loan products. FHA is a little different than conventional. And so that debt ratio pretty much single-handedly determines the purchase price. And then you go from there. Then you can price out the scenario because there are different tiers. I call them tiers or like pricing buckets. So let's say you have an apples to apples person, same down payment, same income, everything's the same, but one's like, a 670 and one's like a 680. Well, if the next pricing bucket within credit scores starts at 680, that person is getting a little bit better of a credit score.
What do you think the amount of purchasing power between those two buckets that you're looking at? Maybe like 40 or 50,000?
Well, no, the purchasing power would be the same because it's dependent on the debts that you have versus the income.
And they're looking at 50% or less, right? You don't want to be over 50%, or is it a much lower
It's usually
number?
40.
That's 40%.
40 for the proposed monthly mortgage payment, and then usually 50% or less for what they call the back end, the new monthly proposed mortgage payment, plus all the other stuff reporting on credit. And then student loans play a factor now. Now a lot of people have the student loans and they're like, oh, they're deferred, they're getting removed. Okay, that's great. But if they're reporting on your credit, I got to count a 0.5% as a payment into your debt ratio. So it's just very multi-layered. And like the message I have for people is mortgages are not one size fits all.
No.
It's, they're like, oh, my friend, my coworker, my cousin got this deal. But unless you're the same exact person with the same exact income and the same exact credit, you know what I mean? And I get it. It's not sexy. You don't want to go to the car dealership and like, I want to talk to that finance guy right now. I got to talk to him. I can't. No, you want to get in the car, feel the leather seats against you, feel like whose house are you driving by when you sign the papers? Oh, I can put my phone here. I got all my drink holders. Let me check out this console. Take me for a test drive. I'm feeling
sold,
myself.
Rebecca. I'm sold.
You know what I mean? And then you're like, but when you're buying a house in real estate, you got to talk to the finance guy first.
And that's what I like. Rebecca's just shooting what is all the hot air that most of these lenders talk about. She shoots it straight. This is what it is, and this is what you got to have. So when it comes to putting down a larger down payment, do you get any kind of, obviously everybody has a loan amount that they can, get approved for, but does the lender feel better if this person's going to put down 35% or 25% rather than 5%? Is that going to make a big difference if somebody's on teetering?
Well, it's going to make it different on the loan amount.
Well,
right?
The debt to income ratio, if these people have, all right, if you got 30% down versus somebody who's got a better credit score, maybe a little bit of tangible assets, but they're only putting down 5%, who is more likely to get the loan?
Well, I think that's a great question too, because so when you're talking about down payment, like there's just the minimum required down payment for different things. Now you can put down more if, maybe conventional, you want to put down the 20% to avoid paying the monthly mortgage insurance, things like that. You can do that. But putting money down isn't going to affect your debt ratio because it doesn't affect your income nor what's reporting on the credit. Now, it will factor into the loan amount and things like that. But here's where mortgages are not one size fits all, because in this market, what if the home values are so inflated, right? They're so high. So what if you're getting into a home where you want to do some upgrades? You want to do some stuff. What if you... like real estate is an appreciating asset, but what if you want to save for a rainy day? So then it becomes, listen, what are your goals? The absolute lowest rate, the absolute lowest payment. You don't want to go above $35,000 max cash to close. And then I can kind of reverse engineer it and let you know, because nowadays, for some people, they don't care. They have the money and they want to put it down. For some, it's like, well, I'd rather hang on to that liquid cash. And so we can look at that, because realistically, putting down an extra $10,000 or $15,000 more may, when you're talking about a mortgage of hundreds of thousands of dollars,
$20, $30.
Right. What is the actual mortgage payment difference per month to part with $15,000 extra dollars in liquid cash?
Do you see a lot of people taking advantage of what their maximum purchase price is and not actually saying, hey, I get it, approved for $500,000, but I'm going to take the house that's $300,000. I mean, what would you say the percentage of people that maximize their loan pre-approval as opposed to people that actually do not take the full amount?
Yeah, love that question, Sean. That is a very personal, like what is the ratio is maybe, I don't know, that I personally see is maybe like 75 to 85 go to their ceiling. Because here's the other thing.
That's how we live.
Yeah, like I'm going to let you know the maximum, right, that you can qualify for. But then if you tell me, well, I'm not comfortable with a mortgage payment above $3,500 a month, then I'm going to say, well, that's not $500,000. Your target price point, your sweet spot is going to be X to X.
Yeah.
Because you have to think you're going into this mortgage for 30 years. I'm not here to just give it the highest and best, and then these people can't afford it, or it's more than what they can afford. And I get it a lot from renters. Well, I'm paying this and the rent's going up and I don't want to mortgage more than this. Well, you're going to have the homeowners insurance and all of those. So that's where the higher premiums, they kind of reduce your buying power because they're more, and they're like, well, I don't know, the rates are high. I get this a lot from renters, and it's like, well, let's be real. The interest rate on renting is 100%.
Exactly. You're not getting any appreciation. And that goes back to also putting your liquidity in something that's going to appreciate. I mean, right now with Florida, the way the population is continuously growing, this is the best place to put your money, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
Would you say so? Yeah. I mean, do you see a lot of people, Rebecca, with a pretty good amount of money and they throw, maybe an unnecessary amount to the mortgage as a down payment because they're just like, I'd rather have my money tied up in this property than have it sitting in the bank making zero?
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, it depends because usually the people that are sitting on a lot of money that I'm seeing are the ones that are, oh, I don't know, the market's too high, the market's too high, the market's too high. Well, there's a couple of things with that. So one, it may be a little bit high, but here's what's going to happen. When the interest rates drop, all these people that have been sitting on the sidelines are going to flood the market. All hell is going to mother effing break loose, okay? Because then what's going to happen now? It's like, it's like one of those like self-help life things, or like I tell my kid, like, choose your hard. Right? So what's the hard? Biting the bullet and buying a home and getting into maybe a little bit higher of an interest rate that you want right now, or waiting until the interest rates go down. And then guess what's going to happen? Bidding wars. So you're going to be going in $25,000 over ask on this $425,000 home and walk into it with like 20 grand in negative equity. Potentially.
And we know historically the interest rates are still super low compared to the 80s, 90s, even the 2000s. I mean, when we saw them drop to 3% and 2.5%, I mean, we're talking about pandemic time. We don't know if they're going to drop that low. So you're still getting a deal right now by purchasing a house than sitting on the sidelines.
Yeah,
agreed.
Because in the 1970s, they were like 12%, 16%.
Yeah.
And now people are complaining about 6%, which makes no sense because, I mean, you're still able to afford a house on a 6% interest rate than you would a 16% interest rate. So.
Yeah. Well, and you're 100% correct because when Jimmy Carter was president in the 80s, interest rates were at 18%. And then, like you said, the all-time historic lows of 2 and 3%. I don't believe personally in our lifetime we're going to see that again.
Never.
But listen, people, that is borrowing money for free. Free your
money.
Car payment, you're not getting at 2 or 3%. Think about the APRs on your credit cards.
Yeah.
26 minimum, 27, 29. The thing is that it's everyone's point of relativity. Their point of relativity were those historic lows. They don't want to hear that now they're still historically low. Yeah. They don't care about that because their point of relativity was a year ago, a year and a half ago. They quite frankly don't care that their baby boomer parents in the 80s were buying a house at 9%. I think my husband's been in mortgages since like before the '08 crash, since like forever, over 20 years. And I think at one point he told me in the early 2000s, he like refinance my brother-in-law into like a 7 or 8%. And it was like a great deal.
You just brought up a great point, Rebecca. If you do buy right now, all you people sideline right now, if the mortgage rates go down, refi.
Yeah.
You can either refi your rate down or you can refi and take some cash out. That's a great strategy.
100%. And you're building equity this whole time. This whole time you're sitting and building equity because let's say your rent is $2,000. I guarantee you it's not. Over the next year, $24,000 poof in the wind. What do you have to show for it?
And that's the minimum too, Rebecca. $2,000 right now in the Tampa area is $2,050.
Yeah, I was paying $2,500 before I bought my house. A question I got for you here, because a lot of realtors don't tell this to the people purchasing homes, is that your mortgage payment's going to go up after you purchase your home after a year if you do an FHA loan, correct? Because then the tax assessment on your property, what the purchase price was, raises. So now you pay more taxes, which means your mortgage payment goes up. Is that correct?
So, yes, that is correct.
That's the hidden truth of purchasing a home.
I don't know if it's only FHA, right?
Well,
it could be anything, right?
Yeah, it could be anything. So if you escrow, which escrowing is paying your property taxes and your homeowner's insurance in your mortgage payment. There's like 4 things, right? So you have the principal and interest, and then your taxes and insurance. Those are the escrows over here. So the principal and interest, unless you refinance and get into a new loan, that's the same. It's the interest based on whatever the principal balance of your loan amount is. So that's not changing. So the only thing that would make your mortgage payment go up, is you're 100% correct, is if your homeowner's insurance premium has gone up, which in my personal experience it has, as well as flood year over year. You can shop it and stuff to get it reduced, but every year when it renews, it goes up. And then you're right, the property taxes, because the property appraiser's office reassesses it, reassesses the value, and then they can go up, and it is what it is.
This is crazy because I was paying around $3,500 a year in taxes for my property. A year and a half later, it went up by $7,000 to $11,980. So, I mean, these things are ridiculous. How the government can just reassess, say, hey, yeah, we get how much you paid for it. Now we're tax assessing it for more than what you paid for, which doesn't make sense to me either. We had to call the county, Hillsborough County tax office, and they're like, yeah, I'm sorry, that's just what it is. We didn't make a mistake, because we thought our neighbor who put in a pool, they were assessing it for that.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, that's your property. That's how much it is now.
Well, and that doesn't surprise me, because I have a personal friend, and she also happens to be a realtor partner of mine, where her personal taxes went up as well. And I don't know for sure, maybe we need to, who out there listening knows a property appraiser we can get and put on the spot here.
Yeah, that would be great.
That would be great, or just to rake him over the coals. But hers went up, and I think it can only go up like a certain percentage or something. I mean, she printed off all these other homes like in her area, and I think they had to look into it. I forgot to ask her what was the outcome. I probably should have thought about that before I mentioned it. But yeah, it's crazy. But I mean, then again, so it goes up by $1,200. Well, you're still building equity.
Yeah.
You're still having invested in an appreciating asset. And let me tell you what, your 401ks are not appreciating.
They're depreciating right now.
Listen.
It's the old timers' way of investing in stocks. It's the way they used to do it in the rat race, 9 to 5.
Yeah.
The rat race.
The rat race.
It is. No, 100%.
But the thing is that that's not the way to make money anymore. And the best way to make money is
Own a business.
no real estate.
Well, 100%, because I had a borrower and some of his funds were coming from a 401k, and he had in this one account $250,000. So they usually issued quarterly statements, and over one quarter, you guys, he had an over $20,000 loss on his 401k. So you know what I would tell you? Well, you're just balling up 20 grand and throwing it in the trash. Quit contributing to your 401k. Keep that money, save it for 6 months to a year, and put it on a down payment to a house. Because I guarantee you that 401k is not making you any money.
Well, I mean, it can go up because historically those are based on ETFs and mutual funds, right? So, I mean, if you look at where the prices for those investments were, in 08, well, they've exceeded that now. So, I mean, 401ks do go up, but you're right. Depending on the current president or whatever policies are being pushed, it can go down, it can go up.
Yes.
But make sure you pull out your 401k when you're at the top of the top is what I would say.
Yeah. And generally speaking, you're right. Like if we zoom out and look at 401ks historically, their performance, but if we're kind of zooming in now, I mean, real estate's where it is. It's, you know what I mean? That's the one appreciating asset. no matter what.
Let me
That
ask you-
holds its value.
yeah, and you're paying
maybe
it
that
off.
in commodities.
And you're paying it off. But the biggest thing is we're going to touch back on the purchasing real estate in just a moment, because I feel like purchasing real estate, duplexes, quadplexes, whatever it is, you're going to get more out of that than you are in your 401k. We'll be right back. All right, so going back to what we were talking about 401ks and real estate, and I happen to agree with Rebecca when it comes to why not own a quadplex or a triplex, a duplex, whatever it is, rather than have a 401k, because you're getting an appreciating asset. It's a tangible asset. It's great on the balance sheet, and also you're getting cash flow, and you're going to be able to cash out eventually for more money than a 401k, especially in this climate. So when it comes to people wanting to purchase a duplex or a quadplex, you have great products for that too, Rebecca, right?
Yeah, and I think that is a really good idea, maybe especially for like a first-time home buyer or a young investor or something like that. Because think about it, you can buy a duplex, let's say, as your primary residence. So you go in with a lower down payment, and then you live in one side, you rent out the other side, you either cash flow or at least net, and make your mortgage payment, and then stay there until, a few years when you don't want to, you want to go move up or you change jobs, whatever the case may be. And then you rent out the other side too. And you go and you buy another primary residence.
Let's say you bought your first home, and can you use FHA to buy an investment property again, or you can't?
Great question. No, FHA is for primary residences only.
I got it.
Yeah.
Unless you move in there, like you said.
Well, here's the thing.
And could you say you moved in there, have a mailing address there, and then have 3 other people living in that quadplex, and that is technically considered your primary residence?
I mean, technically, yes. Technically, it would also be mortgage fraud. So there's that. But hey, I don't want to kill the vibe.
I told you she was a straight shooter.
I don't want to kill the vibe. But listen, here's the important thing about it is things change. So it matters a lot, your intention and how you go into it. Because you're going to go into, let's say, something like that. And if as your primary residence, you're going to sign all of these mortgage loan documents that say it's your primary residence. You're going to sign insurance policy docs. And then God forbid something happens and the place burns to the ground and people are like, he never lived here. That wasn't his primary residence. Then true. You get canceled for material misrepresentation and you have a huge conglomerate insurance agency coming after you. So exposure on the liability side is more than I personally would be willing to risk. Does it happen? Yes. And that's a whole other conversation. But to your point, things change, right? Everyone is not sometimes looking for the best deal, the best rate. Sometimes life changes. They have to relocate immediately. They're moving out of state or they're moving into state. They have had a baby. They want to move closer to family. So if you buy said duplex as your primary residence and things change a year later, you move on, then that it is what it is.
I think as a married couple, you probably can't do it. But let's say you were boyfriend and girlfriend and you had, let's say your boyfriend bought a house, you're living in it, and he bought FHA, and now all of a sudden she is still your girlfriend and you buy it. For sure. There's 2 different people.
Yeah.
But if you're married and you're just going to be like, okay, I'm going to buy another primary residence and rent this one out, I don't think it's going to work because both of you guys are going to be either on the loan or at least on the deed.
Yeah, on the title, at least.
Can FHA loans be given to LLCs?
So can they be given to LLCs? So the actual loan, the actual mortgage is never going to be transferred. So you always have to have a personal guarantor to sign the note.
Okay.
You know what
an
I
LLC
mean?
can't buy a house
conventional, right?
Only conventional, right?
I don't even think conventional.
No.
An LLC can't purchase a home with a mortgage?
Well, because here's the thing. So we have 2 worlds. We have the conforming world and then we have the non-conforming world. So the conforming loans, I I kind of describe it as the square pegs for the square holes: FHA, VA, USDA, and conventional. And those are just, they're packaged up and sold on the secondary market to like governmental or quasi-governmental agencies. So they're backed. And then the non-conforming or the non-QM world, it's a lot more flexible because those loans are packaged and sold on the secondary market to institutions like hedge funds and pension funds. So there's a lot more flexibility. So when you're talking about can an LLC obtain a mortgage, mortgages are risk-based, right? So it's all about the ability to repay these hundreds of thousands of dollars. Well, what if there's two managing members of said LLC and they get into a disagreement and they get pissed off and the LLC is dissolved? Well, who can the mortgage company come after?
The guarantors, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
But then the guarantor is still an individual person. A business can't.
Let's say that you do want to deed it to a trust or something like that.
Yeah.
Does that cost the individual money to deed it to a trust? Do you have to now have it refinanced in order for the trust to obtain that property? Or can you simply just go through a title company and say, hey, I want this trust now to own the property.
Yeah.
What do I do? Oh, just pay this $1,200 fee, and now on the deed it's going to say, Fabre Trust.
Yeah, I think that's a better question for like a title company or a real estate attorney. But once you have the mortgage, right, and it's Sean Fabre, whatever, then you can deed it. Like, just like think of two married people that quit claim a property. You know what I mean? They get divorced. Both of them aren't on the mortgage, just one is, and then they quit claim it. So you just pay whatever the recording fees are and whatever person you have to pay to set up the trust.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that was the process.
Yeah.
But then you can't have a homestead exemption on that property no longer because you are no longer technically the owner of the property. The trust is, right?
Yeah, I don't know the ramifications of that because it doesn't really affect the mortgage lending side.
Okay.
Because mortgages are a snapshot of what's going on right now. So I'm processing your loan in that 30 days. In that 30 days, I don't want your income to change. I don't want you moving money. I don't want you getting additional credit and things like that. Then whatever you want to do after that, put it into a trust, create a trust, deed it to an LLC. Maybe you buy another primary residence and want to start renting that out. So you want to deed it into an LLC to protect yourself from like a liability standpoint, things like that. So those are better questions for like a title company or a real estate attorney, because that all happens after the mortgage has been secured on my end.
Understood.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
You know what? I think a lot of people out there, probably listeners, that always ask, okay, I'm not too familiar with the mortgage process, but when it comes to the escrow part of it, I think that's where a lot of people have questions because they're like, I see this when I go pay the escrow amount. Can you elaborate a little bit more, Rebecca, on how the escrow works?
Yeah. So when you say escrow, are you referring to like the earnest money deposit that you give at the beginning of a contract or like taxes and insurance?
Yeah, the taxes and insurance. Like, you know how when you first close, you see a certain amount of money in there and then, it starts to slowly dissipate, or sometimes you have a negative escrow. How does that work when it comes to that?
Yeah. Okay. So that's a great question. So when you close on a mortgage, you have to pay the first year of homeowners insurance. You have to pay that premium in order to bind the policy. Because when you have a mortgage, you're required to carry homeowners insurance. And then also property taxes. Now, property taxes, at least here in Hillsborough County, are due in November. So what we have to do is calculate to establish your escrow account when you close. An escrow account, think of it like a bank account. So you can't go to a bank and say, hey, I want to open an account. And they're like, okay, cool, we'll open it. You have to make a first deposit, right? So think of it like that. So you're going to pay the first year homeowners insurance premium, all of that out of pocket. If you have to carry flood, you're going to pay the first year. And then we kind of reverse engineer it and calculate it based on when it's going to be due. So if you close in May and property taxes are due in November, right? Well, the sellers own the property from January to May. So they're going to give you, the buyer, a credit at closing to cover the 5 months that they owned it. And that'll go into your escrows. And then you're going to set aside a few months and a cushion to put in the escrow account. Because when you close, if you close at the end of May, your first payment isn't June 1st. It's July 1st. So then you skip a month, right? Yeah. So we calculate it as lenders because when your property taxes come due in November, we need to ensure that there's enough in the account to pay it.
So what happens when there's not enough? You get into a negative, and then you either have to make up the amount, and then
mortgage payment goes up.
or it goes up until the escrow amount is back into the positive.
Exactly. So every year your lender or servicer will do what's called an escrow analysis. So because when you pay your escrows in your mortgage payment, every year when your insurance is due to renew, the insurance company sends the bill to your lender or servicer. So it's nice because you don't have to budget it yourself. And then the same thing with the property taxes. They'll pay it automatically out of your escrow account. So if the renewal premium goes up based on the bill that they receive, I don't know, 30 to 45, 60 days before it renews, then they're going to send you a statement. The same thing if your property taxes go up, and do an escrow analysis. Hey, we had $2,400 in the account, but they went up, and now it's $3,000. So now you have a $600 escrow shortage. And then they lay out options. They say, well, you can pay the additional $600 in one lump sum, or you can spread the $600 over the next 12 months. And that's how much that's how much your mortgage payment will go up. So it just depends on what the shortage is. Or if you're like, oh God, well, that's really high. Let me go shop the insurance
That's what
real
I was just
quick.
about to ask. You read my mind, because that was one of the biggest things. It's like you get your insurance quote and you're like, holy shit, Citizens went up this amount of money. I think I can get something cheaper. Let me go shop it with an insurance agent or yourself. I'm sure you got plenty of recommendations, and then you can kind of modify that. And I feel like some people go, no, that's what it is.
Yeah.
So that's what I got.
That's what I do.
That's what I do. But it's just a lack of education that people don't know, that they can actually go, hey, you know what? Let me hold off here. Let me go shop another insurance policy. Obviously, property taxes you can't do anything about, because that's what it is. It is what it is.
Yeah. And, to a certain extent, and you're right, I do work with some really good agents that can help you shop around. To a certain extent, I mean, there are some kind of variables, but now, especially like Citizens, and listen, I don't do insurance, but my experience is, you can tweak certain things, certain coverages to bring down the premium or increase it, things like that. And just really, I lost my train of thought, but
Citizens Insurance, tweaking certain things.
I don't know. We never know.
Hey, let me ask you.
Insurance is kind of boring.
So when you pay the escrow, or if you don't pay the escrow shortage, does that accrue interest, or is the interest just on the principal and that's it?
The principal
of the mortgage.
Yeah. Now, I would not, I know where I was going with that. Now, I would not, it's not a bluff. So if they say, hey, you have an escrow shortage of $1,200, you definitely prioritize paying that within the window, selecting which option you're going to pay it in, and things like that, because then if you don't, you run the risk of them just not paying it, right? Because if there is an escrow shortage, so let's say the renewal comes due, right? They get the renewal bill and it's $600 more expensive. Your lender or servicer is going to pay that. And then they come to you and say, hey, now there's a shortage of $600. You need to pay us back. And so they're always going to have their bottom line in the best interest. So they're going to recoup that no matter what, because then, and this is what I would never, ever recommend anyone let happen, is let's say the next year you don't elect to spread it out over 12 months or pay it in a lump sum, and then they don't renew it the next year. Then what happens? Then the lender, because you're required to carry homeowners insurance when you have a mortgage, they force place insurance. Then you don't have a choice, and it's like 4 times more expensive than if you just took the 45-day window and shopped around.
Oh, wow. So
don't ever let force place insurance happen. And, I get people, oh my gosh, I never knew they force placed. You knew. There were multiple notifications and letters that you just completely ignored, and please don't ever let yourself get forced place insurance.
No. And I just got mine too, so that's why I was like, I just saw it. They're like, hey, we're about to renew your insurance, and every time this happens, I go ahead and I talk to my insurance lady, and she tells me, you can get it cheaper than this. But you're right, Citizens is like always right there at the top.
How much is your insurance bill?
$3,200.
Holy cow!
I mean, I think mine's in the maybe 2,500 or something range. And sometimes now they've even tightened up. Like now I think citizens started asking for like the roof permits like in January. So sometimes due to the age of the homes or the condition of the roof, you don't really have a choice. Citizens is kind of the only one that will write it. So maybe we need to get an insurance agent and a property appraiser.
Or we start our own insurance company over here.
This is what I'm saying.
And then just, deal out the insurance dollars out there, make millions of dollars.
I don't know. I deal with a lot of red tape doing mortgages, and I don't know that I'd want to deal with the insurance red tape. That seems like... That's just a different circus.
But it does influence mortgages for you audience members out there. Just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I think it's important to work with a local, reputable, knowledgeable lender, realtor, insurance agent, people that know what's happening in this market. You know what I mean? Like I had an out-of-state buyer that I was giving them a second opinion, and they had like a lender that had pre-approved them and whatever. And the guy was like, I don't know, in Iowa or Idaho or something. And I was like, I don't know. I would talk to like a local agent, because it's different when you're like a mortgage lender in Wisconsin, licensed in Florida, versus a loan officer licensed in Tampa, Florida, that does the majority of their business in Tampa, Florida. You have your finger on the pulse. You're connected with people. So you're not getting the same level of service from these, big box people that you just type in your online quote and they're like the loan officers and the call centers. You know what I mean?
Rocket Mortgage, all that kind of stuff. I mean, what you really want to have is somebody locally born here. And then especially here in Tampa, I mean, we know all the cuts and crevices in St. Pete, Clearwater, Tampa, Dunedin. I mean, we know all the gems here. So when we get back, we're going to talk about our favorite restaurants, our favorite places here locally in Tampa. And we're back with Rebecca Lorea. Damn it, I missed the A
That's
again.
okay. We were talking about before this happened. I chose it because I married my husband. We have the last names. You have to say it, spell it, and then say it again. So I'm like, Lorea, Larrea, Lorea. My maiden name was Bennett. Bennett, 2 N's and 2 T's.
That one was easy.
Nobody ever got it wrong. Yeah. They're like, what? I'm like, God,
well, at least
whatever.
yours wasn't
Laria?
Furby, a little little animal that looks ugly as shit. But anyways, we were talking about, look, we were all born and raised here in Tampa, and we've seen it grow. But when it comes to foodies, because that's what I like to do,
I like to
eat. What are a couple of your favorite restaurants?
Oh my God, I love. Give me a good, I call them like white hair places because you see all the old people in them. Give me a good, like a Greasy Spoon diner. Like, give me a Patch's Place, anything like that. But I'm a breakfast all day type of girl. Ooh. And then if I want to do elevated, I really like, well, selfishly, my sister is executive chef at the Stovall House. Oh fancy. Shout out Chef Rachel. So she's amazing. I just love like all food. And there's so many good places. Roca. We have like 3 Michelin star restaurants now in Tampa. Lilac at Addition, and I forget the third one.
Gorkhali,
it's something with a K. What?
Gorkhali. It's like an Indian restaurant, I believe.
I don't know. Maybe. I forget. I don't know. Sorry.
A lot of Asian
we
ones
forgot.
Are,
and then what about food when you're eating? You want to talk about other food. Yeah. I don't know what it is. I could eat all the time, but I think it's because I'm restricting my calories and all I think about is food these days.
I know. It feels like, that's the only way to lose weight. Like right now, me and my wife are doing our little diet, and I'm like, I basically got to eat like a rabbit, not enjoy my life. And this intermittent fasting, I can't eat until after 12, and then I eat a freaking little salad. It's miserable. I wish I could just be a fat ass for the rest of my life.
No, it's going great.
It's going
great. You got to stay healthy. It's not that bad. It's actually pretty good. You know what I mean? Like, we just got to do what we got to do. There's too many, like, the portion sizes, the processed crap.
You're
like,
right.
We eat, like, in my house, if my son's 8.5 and, like, we put a pizza on the table and he goes, oh, is it cheat night? And we're like, yeah. Like, he knows, literally. So it's
that's
amazing.
Good for him, right? As as he grows up, because I mean, honestly, the obesity rate here in the United States is ridiculous. So it's honestly nice to make it into a lifestyle. Hey, it's a cheat day.
Yeah.
You can't eat this shit every day.
No, you can't. And a lot of people do. And there's just, that's a whole other topic. It just keeps us really sick. But I don't think there's anything wrong with, especially teaching the kids balance. And having kids is like that's a very trippy thing. If you ever like doing like recreational stuff, having kids is like that because it is very trippy, existential. Like it makes you want to be a better person. I feel like very undeserving. Like my son's literally the very best person I know next to my husband. And it really makes you like, you're like, oh God, now I got to look in the mirror and deal with all this like crap from my chart. Let's unpack. Let's do it. It's going to be great. But I digress. This isn't therapy session. Or is it? So you know what I mean? But I think it's a great thing. And circling back to food because that's what I love. And what else can we talk? I mean, give me all the pasta and cheese.
V's, Charlie's, Ruth
Eddie
Chris.
V's.
Wait. I'm not gonna go Charlie's, but
Charlie's ain't bad.
No, look, I'll definitely
What's
go.
wrong with?
Yeah, what's wrong with Charlie's?
There's nothing wrong with it, but me and my brother went to Ruth Chris, Charlie's, Ocean Prime. We went to many times, but by far service, because that means a lot to me. Service
important.
Yeah, because I mean, me and my wife for our, it's only 2-year anniversary.
Okay,
we went to Capitol Grill, and honestly, the server there was so amazing. He treated us like we were like
at
Capitol Grill.
I know, yeah, Capitol Grill,
Wow.
and I just thought, man, like the food was really pretty good, but the service just brought it to another level, and that's where I like Eddie V's. Every time I walk in there, I just feel like they're always.
It's like cheers, like they know your name.
Yeah, they're like, "How you doing,
Now,
Mr.
did I, like,
Furby?" I was like,
did I?
God damn it! I said it was for Brett.
Furby reservation for 2.
I was like, you know what? But honestly, I mean, we look at Tampa from where it was to where it is today, and I mean, we're looking at all the buildings in downtown. I mean, how downtown has like re-groomed itself and reconditioned itself.
Yeah,
it looks amazing.
No, it's incredible. And, people ask me a lot, like, oh, it's funny because when they're like, oh, where are you from? And I'm like, Tampa. And they're like, oh, yeah, where are you from? And I was like, Tampa. Oh, cool. But where are you from? And I'm like, Tampa. And then they look at you like you're a unicorn and you have 3 heads. Do you guys ever get that?
I don't understand why people freak out.
They're like, because there's like so many transplants, young professional. We got the foodie scene. We got the tech pockets. Everybody's coming here in droves. I don't know why. All the stereotypes about Florida and Floridians are true, but I think they're amazing. Yeah. But yeah, and it's really, they're like, oh, what's your favorite part? But it's really, for me, I think it's like a lifestyle.
It is.
You know what I mean? Like you have the beaches, you have the water. I mean, it's just.
You got Busch Gardens.
A whole vibe. Listen, I don't know, because I did cheetah hunt and nobody prepared. I went on a 3rd grade field trip. I really enjoyed the safari exhibition. And then I got drug onto cheetah hunt and I'm just like in mid talk to my girlfriend. And then it just freaking slingshotted me out. And I was like, and everybody gets those like cute roller coaster pictures that are like, and I'm literally like terrified. And I was like, I would never buy that. I'm like, and then there's the one that just drops straight down. I don't know who's ever doing that for fun.
I did it for fun. That place is fun. It's an amusement park for thrill seekers. That's what it is.
I mean, I'll like halfway kicking and screaming. Like I'll do it, but I'm not like about it. My husband and my niece, I mean, they will just run. They want to do everything that makes them sick to their stomach and just and they just love it and they're thrill seekers. And I'm like, no, please, I'll do the Monto.
No, I agree, but you know what? It's been like really. I always thought when I used to party out in Orlando that Tampa has had such a shitty downtown. Like I was like,
it did.
No more. I mean, me and my family went to Sparksman Wharf. We had a great time at the beer garden. Went to Splitsville, all that kind of stuff. Even though Splitsville has been there forever, but it was just so cool to walk through downtown and see all the big buildings that weren't there before. It just looks like a whole different space. And I don't know if you guys ever walked through Harbor Island and just looked at all the different boats and bars that they actually have now.
And what's great is you don't have to walk anymore. Now they got the pirate taxi that's been going on for like 5 years. So now you can coast the Hillsborough River. You can go to Rick's on the River, come back, Armature Works, Sparksman Wharf, Riverwalk, everything, man.
It's just the whole vibe. But we should probably stop talking about how good it is because then more people are going to want to come. We're like, listen, Tampa really is a drag, y'all. There is nothing to do. The food sucks, and don't come here.
Don't come here.
Just kidding. But if you do, call me and I'll finance you.
There we go. If you guys need a new mortgage, Rebecca.
Yeah, how can people reach you, by the way?
I mean, just you can find me on the socials.
Yeah, socials are
Facebook at Rebecca Larea Mortgages, Insta and TikTok at Rebecca FL Mortgages. I've got my phone number everywhere. Text me 813-579-2589.
Perfect.
Whatever. I'm here. Don't leave a voicemail because I might not check it, but you can shoot me a text.
Yeah, and you'll be able to comment and ask Rebecca any questions. She'll get back to you once we post this on social media. She's a bundle of knowledge, and if there's anything that you want to get out of, which is basically being a renter and actually owning a home, she's going to be the best person to get you over there.
Yes, I am. That's accurate. That's facts. And I have I really enjoy what I do. You know, what I do is so transactional in nature.
Yeah.
And I think realtors too, although they have it, I don't like that they're like emotional support humans because the realtors really, they're
therapists.
like therapists.
Yeah.
I couldn't just leave me on my headset and I can just like end the call. Like, no, like I love people, but not that much. But it's really so transactional in nature that I find it a great honor. Like I'm helping people get into like their family's next home. It's like a next chapter.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And that's really special. And I honor that. So it's not just for me about the commission, the deal, you know, whatever. I like a challenging deal. Those are the ones that are the most pain in the ass. But for me, I'm really relationship driven. So even if I can't help you, like with financing your home or you go with somebody else or whatever happens, you decide you're not ready, I want to help answer your questions, empower you. Like knowledge is empowerment. And it's really not that daunting. It's not rocket science, but people just, you know, there's either misinformation out there or they don't know where to ask or they're too shy to ask. And then they start asking their friends and family members and coworkers, which is even worse. Don't do that. Don't WebMD yourself a mortgage. Not recommended.
That's what this guy does.
Please, are you like the hypochondriac? Like, wait, I think that I have Hashimoto's.
Yeah, no, he self-diagnosed himself. Oh, I think I got colon cancer. It's like, no, Manny, you're on WebMD too much.
Listen, I don't
You're
know.
seeing some Pepto and keep it moving.
He was like, no, I got a sprained rotator cuff. Oh, did you go to the doctor? No, I went on WebMD.
Sean, he's just gonna like pass out one day and be like, oh, I don't know, maybe there was something wrong with him.
Well, look, I have a little problem with the medical field. You know, sometimes I feel like the medical field isn't in our best interest. So
Hell
that's
no, they're
why
not.
I would rather self-diagnose. I probably go to the doctor less times in my lifetime than people have, I don't know, pumpkin gas.
Then
yeah,
there
I
you
would
go.
assume so. Yeah.
I like it, and you keep on that diet and that health tip, you'll be around for a long time.
I mean, that's all I'm trying to do right now. I mean, I'm trying to be around for my son, and then if I have another kid, you know, be around for that person.
That second one. That second one comes in hot.
Well, I know, that's what everybody says.
They
How many
trick you
kids
with
do
the
you
first
have?
one. I have two.
Two? Yeah.
My son's 8.5, and my daughter's 3, and she's an absolute maniac.
Oh, you're
Oh, she's incredible.
So your son was the easier one, right?
He's just. Yeah, and you
So
know,
chill, right?
It's just so chill and just does something for the sake that you ask him to do something, and then she will just dead ass look at you in the eye, and then I'll have to be like, okay, well, when you're ready, just go. It's like hostage negotiation sometimes, and I'm the hostage. It's psychological warfare, but she's incredible. She pretty much exclusively only calls me Rebecca.
Oh, my
She's
God.
3.5. Yeah.
No
That's
mom?
How,
Yeah.
damn. That's how my sister is with my
Yeah.
mom. She goes, "Hey, Sue," and I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't call my mom Sue. My mom's name is Susanna, and she goes, "Sue, how you doing, Sue?" I was like, "Mom." That's her
You're
name.
like, hello. My husband loves it because he's like, Rebecca, she's everything like you never knew you wanted and needed. And I'm like, oh, is it? Well, great. Thank you.
Do you think she's got your personality? Or
If
is
she's
No.
calling her Rebecca,
No,
maybe.
she
Mario.
looks like me and acts like Mario
Really?
and acts like my husband. Yes. My husband, we are like the yin and the yang. So I'm clearly very extroverted and he's a little bit more reserved until he like
Gets to know
kind
you.
of breaks the wall. And then it's just like pure unfiltered hilarity, like just very sarcastic. Yeah. So she just like dishes it. I mean, she bests me and she's 3. I'm like, I got a lot of work to do.
Until they get to the teenage years, because I know that shit ain't easy. Man.
No, it's gonna be crazy. She's a three-nager. She threw like an
Three-nager?
She is. She threw an absolute fit. I'm like, I mean, my hands are. Is there a book I can read on this? Like, what do I do? Like, any like pointers? So I don't know. But she's great. She's hilarious. She's the literal funniest person I know. But it's like innate. Like she like can read the room, and I'm like, you shouldn't have this much emotional like intelligence. But she like just picks you. I don't know. It's very strange. So I'm telling you, it's like one of those weird, trippy things having kids. Like, how can two of the same people like create two very different humans?
It's just like, it gets so crazy when it comes to reproduction. You know, it's just like how the kids turn out and how they are between two human beings having 50-50 genetics.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just nuts.
It's crazy.
And, you know, it's the craziest thing that I felt like it was like alien. Like my wife was like, this is an interesting thing to recover from. Because I just had like this little thing. Just
There's like a human, and then you're like, oh, it's kind of like a parasite, but like I love it. And then like, what even? Like I just sacrificed my body. Like I don't even like where did you come from? Like what's going on?
That's my wife.
Yeah, it's a very out of body thing. And then it's funny because you said your son is how old?
Well, a year and a half.
So then he'll grow up, and like my son's 8.5 now, and I'll see like, oh, he was like that when he was a baby.
Yeah.
Like, so they have the same personality traits. They completely live up to their name. Like
really?
they totally.
So they don't change too much. Like if they were a chill baby, they're gonna be chill.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
like the craziest thing.
Because my son is super chill. He's
Yeah.
super.
Well, wait till the second one.
Oh, that's what I'm nervous about.
Yeah.
Everybody goes, oh, you know, one was a breeze, but now you got one kid per parent. And it gets a little bit
but they're
tough.
so fun. Like they just come in hot. They come in like they do not give AF.
You
like
think that the boys and girls are a little bit different? You think the girls got more attitude because?
Oh yeah. It's like 100% drama. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like I'm watching like a YouTube show. My daughter's like, and so mom, and I was like, can I have some juice? And I was like, yeah, I have some apple juice. Like, okay, there's like a whole routine. I'm like, I think you're watching a little too much YouTube because I don't know what's happening.
That's the thing. But right now, my son's watching Miss Rachel. And Miss Rachel's actually...
Educational, though.
Yeah, I actually like that because I had Mickey Mouse on there.
Educational.
And it'd be like, you know, he'd be like, and then all of a sudden I put Mickey Mouse on there and the guy's like, I'm enjoying myself.
Wow, but did you learn anything from the Mousekatools?
Hell no. The only thing I learned is that, well, maybe a little bit, but I really enjoyed Miss Rachel more so because she's like, hi, you know, she just like kind of breaks it down where I feel like they're learning a little bit more than anything else.
Well, good. Recommendations on toddler shows next episode.
I know, that's right. I know. Well, next show, we're going to have Mario and Rebecca on, and I think it's going to be even funner. But what are your last three, or, you know, what you want to end this show with, Rebecca, as far as like somebody who's maybe not sure about getting pre-approved, they feel like maybe it's too much money. How would you persuade them to be like, listen, stop renting and move into a house?
Great question. Well, I would say if homeownership is your goal, it's not going to happen by accident.
Yeah.
Right? Goals don't happen by accident. So get ready, stay that way, talk to someone. Like a lot of it is the fear of the unknown. So let me kind of strip away a lot of that fear, get a baseline. There's no obligation. Just know exactly where you are. If you're not ready for 6 to 12 months, that timeline may or may not shift. But until you know, and until you're armed with all of the knowledge, like where do you want to go to school? Research it. What kind of car do you want to get? When you have kids, you're probably going to research it. The car seat, you're going to research it. Just have a conversation, you know, and then get ready and stay that way. Because if you're a serious home buyer in this market, but then you're listening to the mainstream media and that's swaying you to make a different decision, then you can't say that you're a serious home buyer. You can't have it both, you know, you can't have it both ways. So, I mean, I would just encourage you to reach out and go through the pre-approval process, even if you're not ready right now. And it's going to be very, very empowering just to know where you are. And then I can help give you an exact game plan and a roadmap. Like I'm your GPS.
Yeah, and don't be scared because Rebecca has all the answers. You don't need to find it on, you know, TikTok or social media without talking to somebody who's actually passionate about their job. She's going to tell you exactly the roadmap that you need to lay out. So in 6 months or even 12 months, if you're really goal oriented and you want to purchase a house, this is what she's going to help you with. Don't be scared. Don't be ashamed. Don't be shy.
Yeah.
It's no question's a dumb question because we all go through new things, and this is the best way to do it. We really appreciate
Like and subscribe.
Yeah, like and subscribe, and we really appreciate having Rebecca
Thanks, guys.
on the show.
I appreciate
it was
you guys.
fantastic, and we're going to have her on again.